Look, I wish these were more focused, but please just bear with it. Okay, I've never done these direct to camera videos before. Usually I've said bits and put it together as one big thought and upload it. But I guess I'll try to focus on two things, and that's the what integration really accomplished, and my usage of the word N-word and the phrase the N-word. Okay, I live in a small southern town in Georgia, and there are places here that, well, let me put it this way. I make a website about the community, and on it there's a map. I have several maps, and one of them is from like 1958, maybe, or something, maybe before that, maybe it's 1850. I don't remember. But on it, it indicates that this graveyard is colored, and this graveyard is white. This park is colored. This park is white, and that all changed in some respects, but not in all respects. What happened was there are places now that are still black, and then there are white places that are no longer white places. They're integrated establishments. And the public pool, for instance, only black people use this. Both of them. There's two of them. Well, now there's one on an island right by here. White people use that, and black people use it too. But the two on the mainland, only black people use. It's basically a self-segregated place, and this phenomenon is known as residential segregation. Okay, but it happens out in public too, not just residentially. All right, and if you just Google that term, I know you're not supposed to say Google as a verb. Who cares? Search Google for the term residential segregation, and you'll be totally up to date on what I'm saying. Okay, hell, search YouTube for it. I don't care. Just be informed of that. Okay, that's what occurs naturally. Hell, let me jump to Africa again, because you can have all blacks in Africa, you see, but they don't see themselves that way. There's genocide in Darfur because Hutus see themselves as different than Tutsis. That's the deal. You and I could not look at them and tell the difference, buddy. Period. But when left alone, they tribally segregate and they war. And here in America, we all naturally self-segregate. But things happen to change that. The government does it. For instance, in education, I think a school should reflect the population around that school. And that if people have paid to live in a certain area, regardless of their reasoning, and that area happens to be all white, the school would naturally just end up that way. But in schools, they do busing to put minorities into schools that are all white to have diversity, which will supposedly increase the health of society, and along with that, productive economic growth and all the things you get from society. But then, in contrast to that, I see this website talking about for African American students, they often work better with actions, not words, or you have to be able to understand their viewpoint. And this thing that goes on and on about African American students needing special needs. They had their own schools at one point, but that was not good at all, apparently. So my mother's first year, I think it was, at the local high school was the first year of integration there. This is just a stone's throw in our past. People don't really relate to the Jim Crow era and the civil rights era. They always relate to slavery, and I think that black people would do a lot better off by saying, look, man, just a second ago was segregation. And even after the government said to integrate in 1954, it took you 18 years or 14 years anyway to finally really accomplish it. And it had to be enforced with the National Guard and shit. It was my understanding back in the 1980s that there was a place in northern Georgia called Forsyth County, I believe it was, not to be confused with Forsyth the town, where it was still racially divided and stuff. But integration did not truly integrate things. it made white areas not be white areas. And that's that, man. And white schools not be white schools. There are still what they call traditionally black colleges. Man, they're black colleges. That's what they are. They're black colleges. They're black institutions. There's lots of black groups, organizations, and institutions. And it can be that way, but there must then be white places, and that be okay. There cannot be a double standard. That standard's fine as long as we're all living by it. That when you say racism, understand that it has nothing to do with the white power structure, though that is the current trend. That is just an example of racism. And that racism can be black on white, or black on Korean, or Korean on black, etc. It's not a white thing, and therefore there is no thing called reverse racism. That is a gimmick to make it appear that racism is something white people do. And that's not the case. It's something everybody does. And again, this boils down to us using the wrong word. We should use the word bigotry when talking about bigotry, and racism when talking about institutionalized bigotry. But some people want to change words. You could do that, but you can only add definitions. You can't change the old existing definition, okay? I heard when that good was bad, or bad's good in the dictionary now. There's like a tertiary meaning of bad can mean good. But hell, Run DMC said that way back in the day. Okay? Not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good. There was some other point I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, the N-word, right? I bet you're all wanting to hear this. N-word. What if we all suddenly just called black people N-words? And we all said, hey, N-word, you're a good old N-word. Thank you for helping me out, N-word. Immediately, this would be absolutely unacceptable, man. It wouldn't even take time to be totally unacceptable. And for that matter, I could say, man, these N-words are driving me crazy. These N-words are making me nuts. At what point do we quit censoring what white people can or cannot say that for all intents and purposes would likely be? I ain't trying to construct a straw man, but in all likelihood, hypothetically, it would be okay for black people to say all these things, inner and hey, what's up, my N-word, and y'all inners are crazy, kind of like they do with ninja. They say, yeah, you're making a ninja crazy, man, and all this. But I don't really think they want you calling them ninja, honestly, even though they do that, and it's not the word nigger. Notice I said the word nigger there. Sometimes I will say the phrase the N-word because I don't want to be distracted. I don't want the audience to be distracted by me saying nigger. That's all it is. So I'll say the N-word because their ears are tamed by the media and they're used to hearing that. So I'll just do it. This, in my mind, brings up another point about the words, the chain of words that black people want to be called that all grow to be insults. But anyway, about these N-words, if we called them N-words all of a sudden, you N-words would go crazy, man. But my advice to you N-words is look inwards, because that's where your real worst enemy is. Okay? So quit worrying about we've got to get back at the white man for what happened in the past. Be happy that that happened in the past because you landed right here in America because somebody really actually suffered in a really terrible, wrong way. So be happy about that. I'll tell you, a lot of Irish people have the exact same plight as you. They tend not to call it white slavery, but it is. And Irish people went through it in this country. Initially, black people went through it as well in the North for like a 7-year period as an indentured servant, and then they become free. But later in the South, they decided, well, we're going to have inherited slavery. I buy you, you're it for life, you're my property, and your children are my property, and I can sell them up or down the river, so I choose, separate from you. That I say so, and that you are basically property or livestock. That changed because people got greedy, and they changed the idea of a black person being livestock to the idea of them being 3/5 of a person so that they could have better representation in the House of Representatives. An organization based on certain concepts and ideals that were written in a certain way that modern day people interpret a certain way. When they say we the people and all men, they weren't thinking about black people at all. All right, it wasn't written for them. Black people having full dignity didn't even occur until the 13th and 14th Amendment. So, you know, these were also these amendments, even the first 10, what we call the Bill of Rights, they were afterthoughts. The idea that was all men will be created equal and by their creator and endowed with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But they weren't talking about black people at that time. They didn't even consider them people at that time. And to make such progress is fucking incredible, you know? But to piss in the face of it is also disgusting and maybe like maybe unforgivable. It's totally divisive, I'll tell you that. We'll see what happens. My use of the word N-word, though, that's why I do it. Yeah, I don't want to distract anybody by saying nigger. Sometimes I want to focus. I'll just say the N-word. But sometimes I'll just say N-word. What's up, N-word, Mr. N-word, Mr. Fuck N-word? What's up with you? Call you out in this video. Maybe I'll post this on, in some way to your channel as a response or something, just so we can keep on track with the question and answer, because you prefer video. This is easier. I've never done this before, and I borrowed this laptop from a friend. This is a brand new webcam. It just took the plastic right off of it. Should have done one of those unboxing videos. But I don't know. Let me talk more about African American studies, I guess. There's a lot of hypocrisy out there that's got to stop. If you're asking for a double standard, you're asking for it. Ask for a single standard. Quit calling yourselves us and having lines of clothing like for us, by us. Often said FUBU. That means for black people, by black people. That's what us means, black people in that case. What if I did that? What if I had a clothing line and I called it N-Fun, N-F-U-N? Not for you, nigga. But I spelled you like with the letter U. In that way, appropriating black culture at the same time denouncing it. How would that be? That would suck, right? So that's what you're doing. You got to stop that. You ask for black organizations and schools and whatever, you may end up with black water fountains in restaurants and theaters. That was bad, wasn't it? I mean, wasn't it? Isn't that the deal? Aren't we agreed on that? Didn't we agree on that? And now we're looking to move forward from that somehow, that shit that occurred before I was ever born? That shit that I was never involved in? I think I'm going to go ask some people on the street and do an interview and ask them in the so-called black community. I guess there's black communities. All right, well, I'll ask them, would it be right if you were arrested for the crimes of another? And they'll say no. And I'll say, especially, let's say you had an uncle that committed some crimes, but he's dead. It's been 30 years. You weren't born yet, but they're going to arrest you. And you do the time. Some of you got to do the time. They say, man, you crazy. And I'm white. They give me, nigga, you crazy. You're damn right, that's crazy. And slavery, it happened, man. It's still going on today in force. Way more than it ever did in America. So quit your bitching, black people. Let's get on the board together here and do something with America, because it is in the shitter. Okay? And I know 80-year-old motherfuckers, and they're telling me it's in the shitter worse than it's ever been. I know lots of people of all cultures and ages, and I'm coming from a wide perspective. So, if you can't handle the truth, flag it, flag it. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll maybe do another one if I got some comments already.